Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat, and I got some Toonami news for you today, and that we have a new show being announced to the block earlier today. The announcement that Dragon Ball Daima will be added to Toonami starting June 14th. That's not the Saturday 2 days from now, that's the Saturday after. So the schedule for that specific date of, again, June 14th will be Lazarus at midnight, Dragon Ball Daima at 12:30, Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War at 1:15, Blue Exorcist Season 2 at 1:45, One Piece at 2:15, Naruto at 2:45, and Sailor Moon at 3:15. Now, this is kind of interesting, and I haven't gotten clarification on this yet, but I believe just for the first episode, Daima is 45 minutes long, which is why we have these kind of a weird time slots going on here. So I presume that with following weeks afterwards, it's just going to be standard 30-minute time slots. Because if that's not the case, then we might have a problem. Because there's a lot of people that really rely on either tuning in at the top of the hour or right 30-minute mark to watch shows. And if they see that the show's like halfway through or is not on, they might just tune off and not come back. If this is just a 1 week thing, that's probably going to be completely fine. But ultimately, yeah. And Toonami, one of the biggest news in Toonami 2025 is just the sheer turnaround in terms of actually getting shows onto the block. Now, you got Blue Exorcist Season 2. We were able to get that season. We were able to get Bleach Thousand Year Blood War after this time last year. We thought, oh, it's never going to be on Toonami. And now we got Daima, which aired last year, onto the block here at Toonami. Which right now just looks like right now the lineup is starting to get a little better and better over time. Lazarus, I was actually planning, when Lazarus ends, depending on especially how the finale is received, I'm making a video about it because I've noticed a pretty interesting phenomenon about Lazarus, which if I got into detail now would probably take a half hour or something. And I want to be able to, focus in on my thoughts so it doesn't turn into a long ramble. But yeah, Lazarus is still at the block at midnight. Then you have Daima, Thousand Year Blood War, Blue Exorcist, One Piece, Naruto, Sailor Moon. And again, and my consistently unpopular opinion that I have had with Nami in recent years, the fact that where a lot of people, every time Warner Brothers Discovery does something anyone doesn't like, oh, David Zasloff, David Zasloff. But look, if you compare Toonami to any other Warner Media property after the acquisition, Toonami got the longest possible stick. Now you could say like, whoa, but what about Fena Pirate Princess and Shenmue and Blade Runner Black Lotus, them getting written off for taxes? Look, if that is the one thing that happens to Toonami, two shows that were effectively finished, and a third one which was doing all right. Like Shenmue, I know Shenmue had its fans, but wasn't necessarily going to be a big draw for the block, probably getting written off. I mean, especially if you followed more what they did to TNT and TBS in particular, they got absolutely gutted. So, like I said, if Toonami just had a few shows, including a couple that were probably never going to even air on the block ever again, written off for taxes, you kind of got away a little lucky. And the fact that they were able to keep funding these originals. Again, Lazarus is on the block right now, and we're willing to throw in the money for getting the rights to Daima and Thousand Year Blood War, which those properties could not have been necessarily that cheap to get the license to air the dub. And again, to get them, especially, I don't know about who's on what streaming service, obviously, but if you got the English dub exclusivity on Toonami, at least just for the weeks in which they're going to be airing on Toonami, that's a massive win, especially in this day and age where, Toonami is not the go to for dubbed anime anymore. A lot of people just go to Crunchyroll for that. And if Toonami can kind of either work with Crunchyroll, which has been incredibly shaky, obviously, or find some other avenue where they get new shows. And of course, we already know about the Toonami originals. That's kind of been their way around this to very mixed, mostly negative, but mixed reaction. Maybe Toonami can find their niche. And I've been saying for a long time that Toonami's niche should be just go all in on being retro. Like we already have Naruto, we already have Sailor Moon, and if they really want to, they could probably reach deep in their well for some older episodes of One Piece. And they could probably get licensed to some cheaper, older anime for pennies on the dollar, probably. And you can be like, well, maybe it's not the hot spot for new stuff. But there's always gonna be a nostalgia market. I mean, again, we have Naruto and Sailor Moon on the block. Those shows, to this very day, have their fan bases, and Toonami can really capitalize on that. But again, and this is why I wasn't didn't make the Lazarus video because again, I've already rambled on. Because again, I was talking about Dragon Ball Daima coming to the block, and now I'm talking about 90s anime again. But I digress. It's a pretty good announcement. I think this is a really, really great announcement for Tommy, a really good show to pick up, especially with Dragon Ball's long history of being on Toonami. But what do you guys think? Leave your comments, leave your opinions down below. I have been the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.